Hello, final year students. Another edition of Lyrical Ballads. Today we are going to, as I had promised you, talk about poetic diction. Okay, so to begin with, Wordsworth was terribly against the hackneyed, the artificial, the stagnant poetic diction, both in theory and practice. Okay, now what does that mean? He said that basically what had happened was that the ancients, the Greeks, the classicals, these people were the writers of amazing similes. They used beautiful figures of speech, similes, metaphors. They saw the world of literature firsthand, so their language was very fresh. Now, over the time, what happened was, till the time you reach the neoclassical age, it became a very hackneyed kind of a writing style. Basically, what you have to understand is that, I mean, it's not that Wordsworth is against similes, use of figures of speech, similes, metaphors, etc. But he does not want it to be super added. He hates it to be used only for the sake of using. Now, this brings us to his concept that poetry is the poetic style or the poetic diction is not prescriptive. He does not have a standard. He does not have a prescription. He does not have a what do you call a law by which you can judge good poetry. Okay, so in all honesty, he says it is organic. Now, what is organic? It's human. Okay, now what is human? That is the language. Now what is human is basically that there has to be a correlation between the language, that the creative language that you are using, the kind of form that you are describing, and basically, now when you are describing a form through language, I'm explaining you what he means by organic, which actually people are not very sure about also. I've also read it through many times, but the little that one understands by just use of these words that these people use. So the organic means, organic according to him means that there has to be a correlation between the creative language and the form that you are trying to portray or to picture. Now, language is not dressing up of a thought. It is an incarnation of thought. So, actually, according to him, as you go, what happens is that a poet makes a very judicious selection of the subject that he has to write on. Now, what happens is that this, if he's a great poet, then that leads to there is a selection of the subject, and then that leads to appropriate passions in him, appropriate feelings, appropriate sentiments, appropriate passions rise in him. And once they take a form, language actually sort of reincarnates them, reproduces them, gives them a rebirth as poetry. And according to Wordsworth, a good poet who chooses a good subject, who puts it in the right language, will always use a language which is sort of dignified, it is variegated, a language which is ennobling, which is uplifting, which is emancipating. So basically, these are, see, again I've told you that the big problem with criticism is that they use a lot of words, and words can be and actually when he says that it cannot be prescriptive because we are humans, so there can't be it's not science, we are just human beings and we are social beings, so there can be 100 meanings to 100 things in life. Like if I speak a sentence, it might mean something to somebody and something to somebody else. Like I was telling my students last year, you guys, my final year students who attended my class, I had given an example that when I was in England and I was teaching in a college, I narrated the story of Ramayana to them. And to my surprise, a class of 28 were unanimous in liking Ravan. Because they said, I did not put any religious connotation. I did not tell them who's right and wrong according to me, who's my God and who's not my God. I did not tell anything to them. I just gave them the text without any bias. And everybody said that they loved Ravan because he knew what he wanted in life. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that it cannot be a prescription. It is organic, because we are all social human beings, and everything, every word, every sort of diction, phraseology, simile, metaphor can be interpreted in 10 different ways. Okay, so that is why it is important that language that is selected has to then totally corroborate with the kind of object that is being described. And Wordsworth is of the opinion that definitely it would be that definitely it is something which is ennobling and uplifting. It is something which is going to give the world something better. Okay, that's what Wordsworth says. Now, beta, he said he did not, very simply, I told you that he did not believe in those gaudy phraseology of the Augustans, the new Augustans. We agree with that. He said, I'm going to use the pure the language of the common man, and especially the rustic people, because they're more close to nature, and that is why whatever language they use is definitely more organic, more natural, less artificial. There have been many इसकी इस theory की criticism बहुत है. So one is that he never used that language himself. Second, he said there is not much difference between the language of poetry and prose. Again, we agree that this is also not true. Okay, and then these two things, and then third, he said that there should not be a theory of poetry. He himself is giving one. I mean, if the Augustans believe that, like Dryden said, that poetry should be always in the language of the kings and the queens and the royalty. Okay, so basically, what I feel was the reality is that Wordsworth romantics were actually getting very tired of the monarchies in Europe. They were very welcoming of the fact that there should be democracy. And I guess his passion for democracy led him to speak the language that he did. That, I'm going to write in the rustic language of human beings. No. That he himself did not do it. And it is not possible also. And in fact, whatever sort of, language that you adduce to poetry, when he says it can be ennobling, it has to be something which is loved by everybody, where there is a message to the world gets an upliftment. Yes, we agree with that, which is normally we all agree with this. So basically, he was against the New Augustans. He was against the artificial use of language, and he wanted natural language. He wanted it to be an organic whole, which means that he wanted his language to somewhere corroborate with the form that it is describing, and that the mind actually, or the thought actually, does not become a dress to the language. The language does not become a dress to the mind or the thought, but it becomes a incarnation of it. It becomes a rebirth or reproduction of it in a different fashion, in a poetic fashion. Okay. He has used words like, okay, that was one. When I was talking about what is wrong with this theory, is that we are saying he was against theories, is himself giving a theory. Second, rustic language, he did not use it himself. Third, he said the language of poetry and prose is the same. We agree that it's never the case. Now, he has more often than not used words like selection and colouring of imagination thrown over it. Now, I don't know how to interpret it. You also wouldn't know how to interpret it. So we know that he keeps on saying that the poet makes a particular selection and throws the colouring of imagination on it. So this is again something which he needed to actually elaborate or make us understand. But as I told you that this becomes a big problem with this paper, that we keep on getting words which might mean so much, but these critics want us to actually sort of limit ourselves to what they are saying. Now, if he says selection, according to me, selection could be very different to what you think selection would be. So basically, as I told you in criticism paper, you will have to live with the terminology used by the critics and understand it the way they have tried to make you understand. So when I want to sum up poetic diction, I'm only going to tell you only this much, that rustic language, colloquial language of human beings, of the rustic people he wanted to use, which he did not He was totally the democratic fervor in him, something that was very much against Dryden and the Augustans, led him to think that the language should not be very high standard as these people use. It should not be bound by meter. So he calls it hackneyed, he calls it stagnant, he calls it stereotypical. So all these words he has used for the New Augustans, which he did not want to use. He wanted it in a very natural language, or the flow. It should come with your thought. The flow should come with your thought, and that's all about. And it's very repetitive. In fact, he goes on repeating the same thing and trying to explain you. So poetic diction this is what poetic diction is all about. In the next lecture, I'm going to talk to you about Coleridge's view of Wordsworth. The biggest thing, he's a great fan of his friend Wordsworth. He says he's the greatest poet, and he says that his poetry was so good that whatever he wrote as a critic, people might have objections to it, but basically his poetry also is a evidence of the fact that whatever he wrote as a critic did not agree with this poetry. Okay, children, now with the next lecture, I'm going to finish with the lyrical ballads, Wordsworth's lyrical ballads, and I have done Aristotle with you, and I've done T.S. Eliot with you. The next poet that I would, the next critic that I would deal with is Matthew Arnold, and what I'm going to do is he's actually Matthew Arnold is very, very, very simple compared to these people, and then I'm going to do Ilan Showalter with you, and I have to do paper 9B also with you, which is American literature. So please keep me tell me whether you want this to continue, and should we finish this first, or should we for a change start and do the American literature. Keep safe and keep your faith. Thank you.